Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Podcast Day 2017. Today, we are celebrating the power of podcast. And with me this hour, I have Issa Perez from the Philippines. How are you today?
Hi, I'm really good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Thank you. Well, if you guys aren't familiar, Issa Perez is commonly known on the internet as Issa Please, and she is an original blogger slash vlogger and a business owner with an insatiable need to talk. With her blog and vlogs being more focused on fashion, style, food, and events, she wanted to create a platform for her to be able to discuss deeper issues and also help Filipinos globally, and thus Issa Talks was born. So Issa is one of the first podcasters in the Philippines who is recognized for her live recordings, which are aired on Facebook Live every Sunday. So on her show, she likes to talk about anything from the business of blogging to vlogging, dealing with the quarter life crisis to human interest pieces, and oftentimes, although hardly, politics. So great to have you on the episode. And real fast, I just wanted to give a little shout out to our sponsors of International Podcast Day 2017. Blueberry is a full service podcasting company, a turnkey solution that will allow a new or veteran podcaster to get set up and running within 15 minutes. Please pay them a visit at blueberry.com. Studio 21 Podcast Cafe is a cafe with 2 working podcasting and video casting studios. The grand opening happens September 30th, where they will be broadcasting live throughout the day. Pay them a visit over at studio21podcast.cafe. The Messengers, a podcast documentary, is a journey through the modern world of podcasting, uncovering the magic behind why podcasters do what they do. Get your copy of The Messengers in iTunes and on Amazon by visiting themessengers.doc. And thank you to Potable. Looking for your next favorite podcast? Potable revolutionizes podcast discovery by providing podcast recommendations tailored to you specifically. Start by going to play.potable.co. That's play.podable.co. And finally, thanks to the Audacity Podcast, the Modern Life Podcast Network, and Podbean. Well, Issa, we are really excited to hear your presentation about how you started your podcast with a third world connection via Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining. You are the first podcaster from the Philippines that we've ever had on our stream. And for that, I am very gracious and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take it away. We'll see you later.
All right, I'll see you later.
All right.
Hi guys, my name is Issa Please, or actually it's Issa Perez, but everyone on the internet knows me as Issa Please. So just to give you guys a little background, as Dave did say earlier, I am originally a blogger and I've been blogging for about the past 12 years. I started when I was in the 6th grade, and well, that's a completely different story, but I've been blogging for that long, and professionally as a fashion, lifestyle, somehow like a travel blogger. I've been doing that for roughly around 5 to 6 years. And I've also been vlogging, which is something that I had recently gotten into, I think in the past couple of years. And we do own a family business, and something that surprises a lot of people is that I'm actually also a registered nurse, but I'm not a practicing nurse. So there. And well, today I'm going to be talking to you guys mostly about how I started my podcast and how I started doing this through Facebook Live. So that's basically what I'm known for here in the Philippines. So if you guys have never been to the Philippines, I do hope that you guys can come. It's such a beautiful place here. There's so many stories to tell, so many places to see, and like so many people to get to know and hear their stories from. So I'm very happy to be able to be here on International Podcast Day. So thank you guys so much for having me. I do have my little notes here like I always do. So I'm just going to go put that over there so I can look at it. But yeah. So anyways, Issa Talks is a podcast that I started around 7 months ago. And I've always wanted to have my own podcast. But the thing is, when I did the research about it a couple years ago, I figured and I realized that it was a little bit too hard, production-wise, financial-wise. It was just like a lot of investments and a lot of things that I thought I couldn't learn or couldn't afford to actually pursue. So I kind of put that on the back shelf and just thought, let's just do it some other time. But I always wanted to do it, and so I then decided to try out radio, and I did that for like 3 months. I only did that for 3 months, but I realized that it wasn't really the right platform for me. So I kept blogging and I kept vlogging, but then I sort of felt that when you're blogging and my niche is mostly about fashion and food and lifestyle, I felt that I didn't really have a place to talk about all the deeper issues and thoughts that I had, which I felt that I really wanted to have a platform for. And so when I got into vlogging, I then thought that on YouTube, I just really wanted to make beautiful content, something that was visually pleasing for me to see instead of just me sitting down and giving story times and talking. So about a year ago, I was scrolling on my phone and I saw that there was a Facebook Live feature. And that was the first time that I was seeing that. And I was kind of curious about it. I wanted to try it out, but I was really too ashamed to do it. So I kind of like kept it. I kept that in mind, but I didn't really try it out until one day I had received a lot of inquiries, because if you did notice, my hair is red and my hair has gone through a lot of different crazy colors. And this is the time when the hair trend of like having crazy colored hair was like really in. And I was one of the first Cebuanos, because I'm from a small island in the Philippines named Cebu. But a lot of Cebuanos were very curious about how I was changing my hair color. What were the steps? What did you need to know and stuff like that? I had gotten a lot of inquiries about my hair. And so I had decided to just go ahead and start a Facebook Live so that I could answer everyone's questions. And I was surprised because that video had got around 1,000 views, more or less 1,000 or 1,500 views, just for people to hear me talk about my hair. And I guess that's when I realized that I could actually have like a little mini show on Facebook Live. But then I never really pushed through with that until 7 months ago, because for one, I was living at my grandmother's house and I had no internet there. The internet was really slow, and it really just wasn't the kind of show that I wanted to put out. And I wasn't sure about what I really wanted to do yet. So I had just put that aside. I had put that thought aside, but I would still continue to do very short Facebook Live videos. And then about 7 months ago, I had moved out, and we had a place that was already good to have Facebook Live videos. I had better internet connection this time. I had a microphone, which I had sent all the way from the States to the Philippines, because it's so hard to get a microphone here, at least one that I can actually afford and like practice on. And well, because I already had those things, and I had my cell phone, and I would just put the headphones in and use the mic from my microphone. I then just decided that I could possibly do this. So around 7 months ago, I actually just set my phone up on a tripod, and then I started talking on Facebook Live. And that's really when the podcast begun. And now whenever I do the podcast, which is every Sunday at 10 p.m., on a good day, I get around an average of 700 to 1.3 views, or on a really, really, really good day, I'll get around 3,000 views for that 1 hour episode. And it's just really been a super great journey. And it was then when I was starting to do it, it was all very low production. We couldn't figure out how I could incorporate my Snowball, my blue mic into the show. So I was still really just doing the podcasts and the Facebook Live through like my cell phone, and I would have the mic. I would have like my headphones on and use it as a microphone. But as the episodes started picking up and more people were watching it, I kind of had that need to just step up a little further. I knew that if I was going to keep doing this, I had to do it the way that I wanted to. And I always try my best to release the best quality that I can. So then I started doing the research about it, what I could do with the very little that I had at the time. And Well, I then decided that I would invest in, well, the first thing that I invested in was getting a Libsyn account. So that's the first thing that I did. And I started to research how I could upload my podcast like everywhere in the world other than just Facebook. And that's really just how the show gradually grew and grew and grew. And now I have a second mic, and I now do the podcast, my live videos at least, with two cameras. So I have a DSLR and I have a webcam for my guests. So it's really just been a slow journey, and I have a lot of struggles figuring out what kind of content that I want to release. So at first it was about vlogging, because that's the one thing that I'm really sure that I can talk about. And then I started interviewing people. So the first person I interviewed was a good friend of mine. And if you listen to that episode, her name is Kitty, and she is a micro celebrity here in the Philippines. She vlogs and makes videos on Facebook that are funny. And I just really wanted to have her on the show as my first guest so that she could share her story and what she was going through. And then that's when I realized that I really enjoyed talking to people and listening to their stories and their struggles. And I liked the fact that people were actually listening and they were actually getting a lot of information about this, because YouTube in the Philippines isn't as big as it is anywhere else. It's really just starting out. I think it got big around like in the past 3 years. So a lot of people are slowly figuring out that, oh, I can create content online. I can be a blogger without a camera, or like a decent camera or a laptop. I can do everything on my phone. Or, oh, I can be a vlogger. I can share my memories, and I just need a little push. So through the podcast and through my Facebook Live videos, I was actually able to do that, and it's been a really great experience so far. So I'm looking at my notes right now. I'm a little bit nervous, guys, so I hope that you guys are staying with me. Yeah. So, all right. So there. A lot of people would ask me though, because I have a very weird schedule. I do it on a Sunday at 10 p.m. But I really took the time before I settled with, I really took the time before I settled for that time, because I wanted to do the research. So within the 1 year that I was doing my Facebook Live sessions, I would purposely try to do it at different times. I would do it at different days, and just to see what were the best times to do it. And then I realized that 10 o'clock in the evening was the perfect time for me, because people go to work on Mondays, and by 10 o'clock on Sunday night, they're in bed, they're on their phones, they're just waiting to fall asleep. And I was like, that's when I realized that 10 o'clock was the perfect slot for me to really just sit down and talk to people and give them something that they could enjoy and fall asleep to, and possibly, fall in love with and watch. But it is really a struggle for me to explain to people what a podcast is, especially in Cebu and in the Philippines. So that is the main reason why I do it on Facebook, because if you do the research, Filipinos are actually the most on Facebook. So that is our number one platform. I think I did the research before. There are actually more Filipino Facebook accounts as compared to the Filipinos, which means that a lot of us have double accounts. So it's quite funny. I give that little bit of facts to schools when I give workshops and stuff. But and because I knew that Facebook was a really good outlet or a good platform for Filipinos, I decided that if I was going to do a podcast, it had to be there. It had to be on Facebook. I wanted people to start seeing it on Facebook and eventually say, what is a podcast? Who are the other podcasters there? What else can I listen to? And slowly discover other podcasters and listen to all the other ones that are great out there, like all the other speakers that we have. They have great content. And, for me, I think that my podcast is like just a little stepping stone for them to start exploring all the options and all the wonderful things that they can hear online, because I also personally enjoy listening to podcasts. So that was something that I really wanted to share. And it's, I can't really convert how that's been so far, but the numbers on both platforms, on Facebook and on Libsyn, are both great. So it is quite surprising. And I do really run into people who tell me that they had started listening to podcasts because of my show, and they didn't know what it was at first, but they wanted to catch the live video, except they fell asleep the night that I was shooting it. So they had to go on my website and listen to the link, and then it sparked their curiosity, and then they started listening to other podcasts, and I love it. It's really been a great experience. So my strongest is really, I believe, like as a blogger and a vlogger, my strongest point is really marketing and selling myself and my clients online. So that is something that I really try to take advantage of. So what I do in preparation for everything before the show is I do make a poster for the show with my guests on. Even if I don't have a guest, I'll have people over. And thank you, Amanda. Also, I would make a poster of who I'm inviting over or what the topic is about, and I would post it all over my Facebook. And people surprisingly were very reactive to it. And I would tell them, sometimes I would always try to relate my topics to whatever I was going through. And I remember one of the memorable topics that I had was the art of making yourself feel, or giving value to yourself in a world that makes you feel cheap. And that was something that was very personal to me, because in the industry that I am in, that was honestly how I was feeling at the time. And so I had given that talk, and surprisingly, people were messaging me and telling me, "Oh, Issa, I can relate to this. Thank you so much. I didn't know that this was actually happening to other people. I thought it was just me." And so that's what I like to do. I like to relate whatever topics I'm talking about on a Sunday with what I'm feeling at the time. When I'm having a guest over, it's someone who I've recently connected with, and that's always been great. So having a podcast, or my podcast, is actually one of the best things that I've ever done. I know that I like it so much because it's the only thing that gets me nervous. Like, preparing for the show, I was shaking for the past 3 hours, and I was just really nervous about it. But that's how I know that I really do love something and I'm really passionate about it. So I'm very glad that I was able to do that. So yeah, another thing that was also an experience for me as a podcaster, and as someone, I don't really know if that's what you still call someone who does it on Facebook, but I do just call myself a podcaster on Facebook as well. But one interesting thing that I was able to do there was, other than just interview my friends and talk to people, I was also able to get a sponsorship. And that was great, because the person who sponsored me was actually one of the people who really pursued me and pushed me to start a podcast. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Neil, and I really want to thank him, because he was one of my first sponsors, and he talked to me and said, "Issa, you have a talent. This is something that you can do. You can talk. It's nothing that's a problem for you. So why not do it?" And so when I did, he was on board, and he does own a bar, and I was sponsoring them and I was promoting them. And I got news about 3 months ago that because of the podcast, they were able to bring a Filipino brand to Las Vegas. So they were able to open, they are currently in the works of opening in Las Vegas. So I'm so happy that I was able to do that for them, to help them open and spread a Filipino brand all over the world. And I was just very grateful, and my heart was very full, because it's just things like this. Because the thing with Filipinos is that we're very passionate, we're very smart, we work hard. There's a lot of things that we can offer the world. It's just that a lot of us are too shy. And I know that me going on Facebook at my age, I'm 26 years old, I know people in my age, or people who see me online, often ask themselves, what is she doing? Doesn't she work? Doesn't she have a job? Why is she always online? I often get that question, but because of me just putting myself out there, I was able to encourage other people as well. And so because of the podcast, I had a guest over once, and she's a student and she's also a YouTuber. So I had talked to her, and she came home and said that I want to start a podcast as well. I want to do what you're doing. And she's a student, so I helped her out and told her that, you know, you should do something that is in regards to school, the issues of your school, education, whatever young kids like doing right now. You can be very influential in that area. And so now we are currently in the works of setting everything up so I can help her do that. And it's just, I enjoy helping people and giving them their own voice. So I know a lot of people who are also my age who have started doing Facebook Live sessions. I have other bloggers who are doing Facebook sessions. I have other friends in different fields. I have someone who's in the world of finance who's starting a finance vlog and talking about it on Facebook Live. And it's just amazing that it was because I had met with them and they had talked to me, and they just needed a little push that they're actually able to do that for themselves right now. And the one thing that I always tell them is, it doesn't matter if no one's listening. That's the one thing, because a lot of people that I know get a little bit conscious that people might not watch the content or listen to the content that they make. But I always tell them that for as long as you're confident about what you're talking about, for as long as you have a voice, just keep doing it. And people will eventually start to listen to you, and they will find your episodes again and listen to it again. And then you'll know that you're on the right track. But never look at the numbers. Don't be so conscious about the numbers. Don't worry about what people are saying or who's listening. For as long as you know that you're proud of your work, then just go ahead and do it. And so that's been a very amazing experience. And I have a friend who's all the way in the Philippines listening to me now. I have a very good support system today. Philip is saying, it's because of you. I did a dry run of my live stream sessions for a month. The experience is amazing. Thank you, Issa. So Philip is a good friend of mine. He's also one of the top bloggers in the Philippines. And I had just recently started my Facebook live sessions, and he eventually got on, and it was so amazing. He has so many opinions and so many great stories to tell also. And because of his work and because of his Facebook sessions, he got tied up with a cell phone brand. So now he does it, and he's an ambassador for that cell phone. And it's really just amazing what it's been able to give to us Filipinos. And I'm very grateful and very happy about it. And another thing that happened on the show also, because I've only been doing it for 7 months, I have only missed 3 or 2 Sundays because I was really, really sick. But I really do try to do it every single Sunday. But I didn't really realize what my reach was, because when you're talking on Facebook or if you're talking on a podcast, you don't really know who listens to you. But apparently my podcast got picked up by the mayor of my city. Sorry. It got picked up by the mayor of our city, and then he had asked to come on my show as well. So that has been pushed back a little bit because I'm still trying to figure out if this is something that I really want to do. But it has been so amazing that even the mayor of my city wants to come on my show and talk about issues and just have me interview him. So that hasn't happened yet, but it might happen in the very, very near future, and I'm looking very forward to that. So yeah. And another way that I was able to share, because for me, Facebook, a lot of people are on Facebook, especially here in the Philippines. It's just a matter of getting people to actually listen and share. The internet is really amazing. I get to share my stories, and I really do hope that the people who I interview on the show come and get to share their stories as well. And one thing that I can help do for them is help them promote themselves. I have YouTubers, I have vloggers, bloggers, I have musicians, I have businessmen, I've had love gurus on the show at some point. Excuse me. But I've had these kinds of people on the show, and that's one thing that I feel that I can offer to them. It's give them a platform for them to share their stories, and at the same time, just to add some, like, a little bit of just to add something special to the show, I like to give out giveaways, and then I would tell people, if you want to win like these tickets to something, then please share and tag. So that's also one way for me to market my show and the people on the show, because people start to listen and they become intrigued, and then they start to learn more, which is, for me, it has been like a very effective strategy to getting people to start listening to podcasts and to start exploring different podcasts that they can actually listen to. So it's been 7 months. It's been a wonderful 7 months, but there have been a lot of challenges. And if you did hear my previous, or my introduction that Dave gave, I do talk about having a podcast in the third world, which is very hard because nobody listens to podcasts, especially in Cebu. I hardly run into people who actually do have podcasts, so I have to constantly explain myself. So even when I have guests over, I have to sit them down for like a good 5 minutes and explain what a podcast is, and explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what they can get out of it, and all those other details. But it's very hard. It is a challenge because people don't know what it is. So they're just thinking that, oh, she's just sitting in front of a camera and she's probably like, I don't know what she's talking about. So I just really have to give everyone all the information that I need them to know. So I make a point to always put that in the description or to explain it. So I'm always constantly reminding people about what it is and what I do. And I'm bringing people that I know on the show so that they can talk about their experiences. And it has been a challenge, but it's a good challenge because I know that I'm educating people and sharing information with them. So it's still been a good challenge that I really do enjoy. But one of the struggles, I think, is because my show runs for an hour, and I talked to a sound engineer who came in the room that I'm in right now, because we did have to move to a 2-bedroom apartment. A few months ago when I started the show, we were doing it in a studio apartment that we were staying in, but you could see our kitchen and you could see the TV at the back, and we were literally doing the show in my dining table, and it really wasn't the setup that I had wanted. I pictured it being a very professional type of podcast. So I had a sound engineer come on the show, and he was asking me how long my podcast was, and I told him it was an hour long, and he was really shocked because apparently not a lot of podcasters like to do it that long, and because of the editing and everything that goes behind the scenes and post-production. But on my end, it is hard because I don't edit anymore, and I can't edit anything when I'm live. So I have to be very conscious and very careful of my words sometimes. I became very aware of what I was saying in my podcast, in my episode where I had interviewed the LGBT community. It was Pride Month, and I decided that I wanted to get a couple of people I know who are in the LGBT community, and I wanted them to talk and to share their experiences and what was going on. I wanted them to share their story to the people who are listening so that they would be more aware. Filipinos are more or less open-minded, but we are still a little bit more conservative. So, and also I didn't want to offend my guests, of course. So I was suddenly very aware of the fact that I was doing my show live. And that was the time when I was very conscious that I was doing it in front of a lot of people and that I was doing it live. So I think that is one of the challenges, especially when you don't know who's actually listening to you. I have about 5,000 friends on Facebook and around 2,000 followers there as well. So sometimes and my audience ranges from around 12 years old to 45 or even older. So I don't like it. I wouldn't want anyone listening to the show, especially if they're younger, to hear certain things and pick them up. And I just don't want to be a bad example to them, and I don't want my seniors to hear it and kind of like get a bad impression. But I do know that it is my show, but I would like to give the best show that I could. But sometimes I have guests over who like to curse and like to drink, so it's kind of ironic because sometimes I still do end up cursing and drinking on the show, but it's still fun. I try at least to tell people that it's explicit and like there's cursing, so don't listen to it, but that's been fine. Um, another challenge that I think that I have been going through is definitely the internet. It is so hard for me to do the Facebook lives, especially with the internet in the Philippines. It gets really bad to the point, and I don't know if this happens in other countries, but when it rains, the internet slows down, and I'm looking outside my window and it's really gloomy. It's been rainy. It's been raining for like the past 3 days, and so I'm really scared that it's going to start to rain because the internet is going to slow down. But I don't know if it's like that in other countries, but the internet here in the Philippines isn't as great as I wished it would be. So oftentimes I do have instances where I'm doing the show and the internet just isn't having it. It's just not working. And so I had an episode where I had the whole setup prepared for me and a guest, and then I just really couldn't get into Facebook Live. And so I had to go back to my original setup, which was just on my phone and on a tripod. And I had to make sure that the audio was good on my phone, and then I still had to make sure that I was recording the audio on my mics. And so it's really been a beautiful struggle because now I know, like, it's taught me to really be prepared at all times and to have a backup plan. So it's really just the internet. I think that is my number one problem, especially here. And it's kind of hard because when you have guests over, you kind of want to assure them that people are going to listen to them and you know, all that stuff, but then they end up having I think they might end up getting a little disappointed because the internet really is bad here and it gets really choppy. But I always make up for it by telling people the next day that, hey, if you missed it, you can catch an episode here on this link. And I'm always just promoting them and the show. And that's really just what I try to do for the people that I have on, because I do really want people to hear their voice and what they have to say and the stories that they have to share as well. So another problem that I do have is the equipment. So I don't know if you guys can hear it right now, but I haven't actually soundproofed my room yet. These resources aren't easily available in the Philippines because I don't really know anyone else who does have a podcast. And I guess it's hard. It was really hard for me because I had nobody to ask. And even up to this day, I really don't have anyone to ask for help when it comes to how do you do this? What platform are you on? How does it work? How do you market? How do you share your podcast? And I'm really glad that I am able to be on International Podcast Day today, because it is introducing me to a lot of very talented and very helpful podcasters. And I've been listening to your shows, to everyone's segments, and I am picking up a lot of things. So I'm very grateful about that. And another thing is, the internet has been a great place. I was able to kind of just figure everything out through the internet, and my boyfriend has been nothing but supportive. He was the one who found a sound engineer to come on and do this, figure out like the acoustics of the room. So we're still trying to figure out how to do that. He figured out how to work OBS. He figured out which webcam to use. He figured out which camera for me to get. He helped me with my entire setup. So my boyfriend has been like my number one supporter. And well, he sent me a very sweet message earlier, and I was crying before the show, so that was really funny. But it's been great. But because there are close to very little podcasters in the Philippines, I just really haven't been able to expand the show as much as I want to. But that's something that I'm learning, and I know that being on today is really going to help me as well. And it's very comforting to know that there is a community out there. And I hope that podcasting in the Philippines does grow, because a lot of us have different stories to tell. For me, I would like to concentrate on entertainment and human interviews with different people. I like having that interaction, and it doesn't matter for me if it's if it's your craft, if it's a business, or if it's just something that you want to share, if it's an opinion. So I love doing that. I love having that experience with people, and I know that people have also know different people, and because of what I'm doing, I just really hope that people can also do it, and then we can make a community, and it'd be really great. So I do have people, and it's really funny because Cebuanos, our culture is very different. It's very unique. And so before people, because it's a very small city, but before my friends actually decide to start a podcast, they actually do ask for permission. And I laugh because I tell them it's free. I don't own it. So you can do it if you want to, by all means. And I always offer help, and I just love it when I'm able to help them and inspire them. So that's been a really great journey. Um, Also, yeah, I do, as I was saying earlier, I do have like a challenge with my equipment. So my microphones have to be sent in from the States. I have family there, and every time they come back, I always ask them to bring me a microphone. And so far I have two. And well, we're just really exploring and researching how we can improve the show slowly, very slowly, but I'd rather have it slowly and I can learn with each single step. All right. So another thing that was a challenge was because I do it live, it's a little bit hard for me to have guests over because a lot of people get like the jitters, they're too nervous to come on the show. So I always have to ask them at least like 2 weeks in advance if they can come on the show. And I'm very blessed that a lot of people actually do want to come on the show and share their stories. So they just need a little bit of a push. Like everyone in this world, with everything that we want to do in life are a little bit scared to do, we just need a little push. So sometimes I do have a problem with like asking or with getting people on the show because they at first they're a little bit hesitant, but as the show has been improving, hopefully every single Sunday, more people are more interested to come and share their stories and talk. And I'm very grateful that no one has ever bailed out on me last minute on the show after releasing a poster. That is one of my biggest fears because I do it live. I get scared to promote someone who might just suddenly back out. So what I try to do is I honestly just release the poster on the day or a few hours before so I can make sure that they're actually coming. So it is a bit of a challenge, but I like keeping on my toes sometimes, so it's kind of fun. And yeah, one of my issues also is that, or one of my struggles also is that it is we do speak a different dialect. We speak Bisaya or Cebuano here in Cebu. So um sometimes people are a little, but we do speak English very well. It's just that people are more they feel more at ease or they're more comfortable talking in our native language. And so sometimes that is my problem. I do struggle if I should, if because of course I do allow them to talk in our own dialect, but that is something that I worry about every once in a while, that if they do talk in our language, that not everyone can relate to it, like other people all around the world. But then I think that this is a Cebuano podcast, and I would want Cebuanos to feel like it is our own. So I do encourage us to talk in Cebuano on the show. So that's a challenge, but for me, it's more of us showing off our pride. And I love, my favorite episodes also are when I talk about traveling to Cebu or the Philippines, because it really is such a beautiful place here. Our city, especially where I live, it's about 2 hours away from the province where all the beautiful beaches are. It's around 30 minutes to get to the mountains, and then if you want to go to the city, everything is so close. And so we feel like we have the best of every single world. And so I just really love talking about it and promoting my city, because the places just aren't beautiful. It's also the people. Everyone here is so nice and friendly, and they're also very supportive. So that is something that I really do enjoy spreading. I'm very proud of my city. I love it so much. I had recently turned down the opportunity to go back to the States, which is where I grew up, because I really just loved staying here and promoting it. So that is something that I'm very proud that we get to do on the show as well. Yeah, other than that, like another challenge I think that I have on the show is also just multitasking, but that's something that I've already conquered, thankfully. But yeah, so from there I just slowly built my studio. I have my own office now, and we're still fixing up the soundproofing and also the lights and everything. But I do talk about it, and I am planning to have a how I started my podcast, like, again, on my Facebook Live, because a lot of people do want to know. If they're not watching the show, I will most definitely share this link. But if someone might ask me to do it again, I am actually thinking about talking about that on my show. But yeah, my pep. So I'm looking at my notes, and I'm just going through everything quickly because I didn't realize that I'm 40 minutes in already. But time flies. That's what I say all the time on the show. Time flies when you're talking and you're having fun and you actually know what you're talking about, or you're confident about what you're talking about. But yeah, so my preparation before every show is, I don't like to prepare like days before. I always just know who I'm going to interview, and then 30 minutes before the show, I sit down and write like a list of questions, like as you see here. But so I just like to run through them, and most of the time, what I love about the show is that you really build a connection. You're getting to know the people that you're talking to, and then the script just becomes irrelevant. Or it's not really a script, but it's just a guide of questions. And like, once you're talking to these people, you are amazed about what they have to say and the stories that they have to tell, and the conversations just flow very easily. It's very natural. So I really do enjoy talking and like having these conversations with people. And yeah, so I just have like a little guide before I do the show. Yeah, so just to go through everything, my future plans, of course, is to really invest more in the show and to learn how I can improve it. And of course, I do plan to get bigger and better guests on the show, and I would really want to get people from all over the world also, but I still have to figure that out. But now that I'm on International Podcast Day, I'm hoping that someone's going to teach me how I can get more people on the show, especially like through Skype calls and all that techie things that I'm not very familiar with. But yeah, advice. My advice, and I like to think sometimes I don't like giving advice or tips because I don't really think that I'm in the right position. Thank you, Segunda. My advice for people who are watching or who want to do the Facebook Live, if you want to do it on Facebook Live, it's surprisingly easy. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But if you want to start doing it on Facebook Live, know your audience and try it out, test out the times. Just basically listen to my story and what I tried doing, and pick up what you would like to incorporate into your own shows. My biggest advice is to invest in learning. If there's anything I would say, it's to never stop learning. So never stop learning about how you can improve your craft, like what you can do. Never stop learning about different people, of course, because the more you get to know people, the more you find out about them. Sometimes when you look at someone, you don't really know their story, but when you start investing in them and learning about them, then you bring out a lot of really great things in them, and you bring out this passion in them that they really didn't know that they had. So invest in learning and invest in good people. Just, follow your heart. And I think that is one of the things. Like, when I say follow your heart, I have it. People always say that my strongest and my weakest, strongest and weakest, I don't know what is the term. I'm lost. My strongest and my weakest character, I guess. That's the only word that's coming in my head right now. But is that I am too passionate. It's either it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. But with a podcast, I'm not just passionate about myself, because when you're blogging and you're vlogging, you're a little bit, for me, it's a little bit self-centered. You're talking about what you're wearing, where you went, and like, what you use and stuff like that. But when it's on the podcast, I'm actually talking about other people. And I think me just really developing that opportunity, or that skill about me, and learning to talk with other people has just really been great. So yeah. And also, my last piece of advice is to find a good support system and to also support other people. So I often, that's why I was laughing earlier, or way back, was when other people would have to ask me, those who are interested in podcasts, they would have to ask me if they could start their own. But I would always tell them, yes, of course, by all means, you can do it. I will support you. Let me know if you want help. if you want to come over to the studio, let me know so I can help you. I can teach you the programs, the softwares, like the very little that I do know, I am more than willing to help. So I think that if you have a good support system, that's good. My family has been super supportive, and my friends have been super supportive, and I also want to be supportive to other people. So it's not just enough to have a good support system. You also have to be a good supporter to other people. You have to lift other people up with you instead of, just wanting to be the only person up there. So I think that is one really important thing that I also learned, and one of the best pieces of advice that I could give to anyone. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can post them in the comment section below. That is what I say all the time on the podcast, or when I do on Facebook. So that is also one thing that I enjoy about the podcast and being able to do it on Facebook Live. I also get to connect my viewers to my guests, and sometimes, like, if it's about love, then they get to ask them about their situation and what they can do. And that is also one of the reasons why I really wanted to do it live, because I wanted it to be a simultaneous conversation. I also wanted my viewers to also enjoy the same thing that I was doing. So I only do it live. I've never done a pre-recorded video or a pre-recorded episode, although I am thinking about adding that maybe a little bit later on, but that is something that I am considering. And I just really I prefer doing it live because I get to connect my audience and my guests. And I think that's been a great opportunity, because sometimes I sort of become like the medium, because sometimes they know this person, but they don't know how to connect to them, or this might be their only chance. So yeah, I have a question from Katrina. She's asking, do podcasters get hate? If so, how do you handle them? So as a podcaster, I've never received any hate. I'm not sure about the others, but I've never, as a blogger, probably yes. And as a vlogger, yes, I do get bashers and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure that there are, but I've never experienced it. I've never checked honestly, I've never checked, because I don't know how to check the comment section of my iTunes or any other podcast channels out there. So I really do need help with that as well. But I haven't, personally, I've never gotten any haters or bashers. It's more of people just really wondering, because people will not like something that they don't know. And that is one thing that I learned about this. And so if they don't understand it, then they don't like it until you kind of introduce it to them. So at first, I would have people say, what are you doing on Facebook? What is this podcast? Why are you doing that? What do you get out of it? And well, my answer is always, well, I like talking. I talk a lot. That is why the show is called Issa Talks. It was the best branding decision for me, because I am known as Issa Please. And so my show is called Issa Talks. But I've never received hate. Luckily, I'm very grateful. It's just people not really understanding. But once you explain it to them, they're very gracious. They kind of jump on board to the idea of sitting down and listening to something for an hour and getting to know more about people. So that's been great. But I'm so lucky that I haven't got any haters. And yeah, so I've just been very grateful. I've got to meet so many people. Neil is on the show right now, and I just really want to thank him, because he was one of the people who really pushed me, and he's been my supporter ever since before. He's on every Sunday. It's gotten to a point where he would tell stories of me, of him watching the show on his cell phone on both laptops, and it's great to hear those stories, because that amount of support is just amazing. And of course, and also my boyfriend, he has been very helpful. And I was telling him I wouldn't achieve any of this if it wasn't for him, because he does a lot of behind the scenes work. We'll sit down on a Saturday and just practice everything, fix the settings, and all the levels. I think it's some technical stuff that I don't even understand, but he knows, he does it. Like I said, he did find the sound engineer to come in and kind of help me fix the room and everything. So yeah, and my guests have also been very great. Everyone who comes on the show is really nice and is willing to share their stories, and it's been a great experience to have people over. And also my sponsors have been great, and the viewers have been great. I always get questions. I always get questions. They would send me like private messages. I have people who will message me and say, Issa, I'm going through this right now. Can you please talk about this subject or this topic? And every single time I get a message like that, it makes me feel really great, because it means that they actually listen to me and they kind of take my advice, or they give value in what I have to say and the stories that I have to share. So I do get questions, or I do get suggestions, or my viewers do ask me if I can talk about certain topics, and I always do make the effort to provide those episodes for them, for as long as I know what I'm talking about, or if I can find someone who knows what they're talking about to come on the show and talk about it with me, then that is definitely something that I do. And well, I talk about different things, so I do hope that you guys do listen. Sometimes if you do check the episodes, I forget, because you're doing it on live, and you do have guests over. So, and the energy is just so high. It's amazing energy. I'm tired I work Mondays to Sundays. I have no day offs, and by Sunday evening, I'm just ready to call it a night and sleep. But when I suddenly do the podcast, my energy level is like, I don't even know where I get it from. And it's so amazing. But if you listen to the show, I don't know if it translates very well, because I do forget to use my indoor voice. So I do apologize if you do listen and check out the show and are a little bit surprised as to why I'm screaming or like shouting in the episodes. And it's really just because I don't edit it anymore. I download the videos off Facebook, and then I get the audio, and then I just add my intro and my outro music, and then that's done. I listen to it when it's already aired. So I just wanted it to be very simple, and I didn't want to take the fun away from it by editing anything out. So if I just want to let everyone know that there are a few episodes out there where I am not using my indoor voice. But yeah, I really like to say thank you to everyone. It's been a wonderful hour, and I'm more or less done. Thank you so much to all my friends in the Philippines who are watching, and thank you so much, David.
Issa, your energy is contagious. Never apologize for not using an indoor voice. I mean, one thing that we've learned as podcasters and listeners enjoy is just authenticity. It is who you are, to be loud and boisterous and excitable and energetic. And so, like I said, never be apologetic for anything like that. But it's amazing. Like, just hearing what you've been doing over there in the Philippines and being able to connect, like you're bridging relationships over here in the United States still. Not too many people are being able to do that. And so that really highlights just the internationality of podcast, and you being able to reach out with your voice through Facebook Live and a variety of other channels is really shaping a new culture of podcast listening out there. So awesome job what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up this episode, where can everybody find you to find your podcast, find your blogs, whatever you may do, and where's the best spot for everybody to find you?
The best spot for anyone to find me is on my website. So that is www.issaplease.com. I have it on my sleeve. I'm wearing a jacket that I had made, so it has like my name on it. My website, it's Issa Please. It's issaplease.com. That's ISSAPLEASE, like please and thank you. And well, I'm basically Issa Please everywhere on the internet. So you can just type in Issa Please on every single platform and you'll find me there.
You're going to find you. Well, thank you so much, Issa, for taking part in representing yourself, your podcast, and the Philippines in International Podcast Day 2017. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, continue to use hashtag International Podcast Day as we continue to celebrate the power of podcasts this International Podcast Day year. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Blueberry, Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, The Messengers, a podcast documentary, and Potable. All right. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Issa, thank you, everybody, and happy International Podcast Day. We'll see you next time.
Happy International Podcast Day.